and welcome to Rediscovered, my vintage story let's play where I do my best to survive, and hopefully with a little luck and a little planning, I can do more than that. Now, in the last episode, we actually discovered some copper. So we found some surface copper, which indicates there's some underground copper. So that's the next major milestone, right? Move from Stone Age to metalworking, and I'm looking forward to it. But there's a problem, right? I mentioned this in the last episode. To start metalworking, you need metal, and I don't remember where Okay, well, we need this kind of, so let me catch up on my thoughts here. So my goal is to basically get us to the metal age. But like I said, to get to the metal age, you need metal. And you can either keep looking until you find it all out in the surface, or you can pan for it. And so my goal here is I really want to get to the point where we have enough. So I think I'll pan for it, right? I mean, you can go exploring all you want, but and there is a lot of value to that, but it's also at the moment one of the riskier, more dangerous options. But you know, the other thing too is that I'm not starving, right? I've got some food. But I don't have tons of food, and my crops aren't ready to start producing yet. They're really close, but they're not producing yet. So I'm at a point where I want to go to the metal age, but there are a few things that are either going to slow me down or completely stop me. But I want to get through those as fast as I can so that I can get metal. Because the thing with the metal age in this game is once you start making metal tools and tools that they're metal, but I mean you can't make with flint, like for example saws. The world of possibilities totally opens up, and that's what it's all about. So that's what I want to do. Another limiting factor we have is my little mud hut here that you see. It's kind of cramped. It is definitely snug and cozy. And that's a problem when you talk about forging. No, not forging, but at least smelting and casting, right? You want some space. You don't want to accidentally step on, 900 degrees Celsius copper casting. So I don't know whether I'm going to try to expand this before we get to that point, or if I'm just going to be really, really careful. I think I don't know. I'll try to be really careful, maybe, but so that's all that we got going today. But that is important because once we open up metal usage, right, we'll have tools that are more durable, that are more effective. We'll have weapons that are more durable and more effective. We'll also have access to a lot of things that we don't have at the moment. For example, we could start creating proper armor. I mean, there's some wooden armor I can make right now. But it's probably not much better than nothing at all. And in this game, armor does come with some downsides, right? So it can slow your movement, can even prevent you from healing, or at least reduce the effectiveness of healing. So, this is not Minecraft where you get the most powerful armor you can possibly find, throw it on, and you're call it a day. There's nuance here, and that's one of the things that I think attracts a lot of people to a vintage story, right? Is there are thoughtful trade-offs in almost any decision you make, or any design or object you pursue. So everything comes with a grain of salt. So that's what we want to do. But even before I get to that point, we're talking about casting, and casting means, you pour a molten metal into a mold and then you let it cool, and then, boom, you've got whatever it is you casted. And that's the first step it's not the first step, but it's certainly one of the first elements we'll need in casting metal tools. So that's what this clay is for, and then we'll go ahead and we'll set up some new pit kilns out in the yard. Yeah, my soup's done. Well, it's not soup, it's porridge, I guess. Anyhow, we'll set up some new pit kilns out there to fire these molds, and hopefully about the time they're done, we will have found enough copper through panning that then we can go to town and be in the copper age. Another important aspect of having metal is, I mentioned the saw, and the saw lets you create a bunch of stuff with wood that is in the game impossible to make without the saw, and a big piece of that is planks, right? Planks are important for a number of different reasons. They're fantastic building material. You use them to make proper doors and windows that and trap doors that will actually seal a room, right? Like, I'm going in and out of this room by knocking out two dirt blocks and then putting them back, which it's a pain. It's a pain in the butt, to say the least. But if I had a proper door, then like we've been doing with doors for millennia, I could just open the door and shut the door and still get most, if not all, of that sealage. Crisp, bright morning. So another thing the saw gives you with planks is are barrels. Barrels are important because barrels, you can store liquids in barrels, and that's certainly important. But a key element of having barrels is it enables you to kick off and carry through the leather working process, right? Because without barrels, I can get furs. I can get rawhide, and then I can transform those into pelts, which are basically furs. And you definitely need to do that. You need to do a bit of that before winter, so you can make some really great clothing for the cold months. And let me tell you, when winter rolls around, when I say cold, I mean cold with a capital C. -5, even -10 Celsius. So it can get, mucho frio. And what else do they give you with? You got the barrels. Chests. That's another one. With the planks, we can make chests, and chests hold a bunch of stuff. So that's probably worth the price of admission all by itself. So it's all good. We definitely need to get those the copper going and to get those tools. Not to mention, about that time, copper arrows combined with a good longbow. I need more dried grass, and I think I need 2 more dried grass. There we go. A longbow, copper arrows really beat the snot out of running around with spears. So better range, better accuracy, and with the copper arrows, I think they do more damage than spears. And spears do a pretty good chunk, quite frankly, but only when you throw them. So that would be good. That would be good stuff, right? That would really enable a lot of the game content, right? Because right now, still just trying to stay alive. And speaking of staying alive, kicking off a small grass fire on my island is probably not a great idea. I thought that the grass was far enough away to not ignite. Apparently, I was wrong. But I mean, there's some grass that's as close or closer, and it's not igniting. So, whatever. The fire gods were mad at me. 4 of 5, very close to getting turnips. So you know, I guess it's probably true of a real survival situation too, right? As humans watching YouTube videos in the comfort of our modern, technologically advanced homes and lives, you know, for most of us, what you eat is completely a matter of choice. And you get to rotate it and eat different foods all the time. Eat your favorite foods. You know, and you have a wide variety of choices, especially if you don't cook and you eat out. Because, you know, you have Mexican food, Italian food, Greek food, soul food, whatever. It's all there. But in a survival situation, you pretty much got to eat whatever's at hand. And, you know, you don't have supermarkets bringing in food from Chile and Mexico. So if it's not in season within like a block of your house, then you don't have a shot at it, right? You can't eat it. And it's a very different mindset. And where I was headed with that is because, like, with the number of turnips I found, the number of turnips I'm growing, and I know that once I start harvesting, the number of turnips I'll have compared to everything else, you know, a third of my diet's going to be turnips. And for me, in real life, not a huge fan of turnips. In fact, I'm willing to bet that anybody watching this video, I bet that the vast majority of you are probably not turnip fans. And I don't even go on a limb here. I'll bet the vast majority of you have never had a turnip. So there. But in Vintage Story, love them turnips. It's either that or starve, right? I mean, can't just live on blueberries and stuff all day. So you know, we've got our stuff cooking in the pit kiln. The crops are growing and almost ready. So let's take a moment to find some goodies in the sand. And oh, okay, got some blue clay. Blue clay is just like red clay, except that more and a lapis lazuli. Okay. Blue clay is like red clay, except that in the more advanced stages of the game, you know, when you have more advanced firing techniques, you can change the environmental factors of the firing process, and you can actually change things that you make with clay. You can change the color of them depending on like how hot or how cool you let the firing process run. So, and you know, red clay and a blue clay are different starting points, so they give you different options depending on same factors I just explained. But red clay or blue clay doesn't matter. That's all far future. At the moment, I'm concentrating on getting copper, and at the moment, I am completely and utterly failing to find any copper through the panning process. Now, this isn't my first rodeo. I have play tested the game for a few hours, and I did some panning, and so I know that the item generation in panning kind of runs hot and cold. So like I just did 2 whole blocks of sand, didn't get a single copper ore, but you know, I have panned before and had like 4 copper ore in one block of sand. So it's random, right? But I'm kind of thinking that I don't want to be standing here all day not getting copper. And you probably feel the same way. So we'll put some of this stuff away and we'll go off and search a bigger game. Now, if you remember, if you were watching last episode, you know, we were exploring the area. That's how we found the copper, in fact. And I did find a set of ruins, and it seemed to be pretty extensive ruins compared to all the other ruins I've ever found. So that's exciting. We did pull some cool stuff out of there already, but for the most part, those ruins are untouched, unspoiled. I don't know how you can spoil a ruined structure. But anyway, I think there is still a lot of potential good stuff there, especially with the size of the ruins. I suspect that there might be some type of like underground chamber or something like that. And I do fully expect that there are some cracked storage vessels in here filled with some pretty good loot. We did find one on the surface when we first found these ruins. So hopefully there's more. Because, first of all, I'm an American, so there's no such thing as too much stuff. And second of all, I'm in a survival game. So again, there's no such thing as too much stuff. But we need to remove a lot of dirt, and I could spend a lot of time going at it with my bare hands. But, you know, we're fairly flint rich, so flint shovels are no big deal. Yeah, moving soil with shovels is so much more effective than your hands. Huge difference. And that's why I kind of dig using shovels. That's a double one right there. It was perfect. Yeah, if it's too early for you to appreciate that kind of humor, of course there are some people who never appreciate that kind of humor, then just watch the video later. Because, you know, this is what you get. This is what you paid for. And if you didn't pay for anything, well, there you go. There you go. I don't need... Well, I guess I do need this dirt, but I don't... the reason I'm really going to town... with the ruins, it's not a matter of just focusing on the stuff that sticks out of the ground, right? It's been my experience that what you see on the surface is... It's like an iceberg, right? It's only the tip. And it often does spread out a bit below that. So even if it was just ruins for the sake of ruins, then I would still dig out the ruins themselves and a few blocks to either side, just to make sure I'm not missing anything. But in this case, I had this tiny little hill that it gives me a big blind spot, right? I'm on the edge of a forest. I know the tree section doesn't look like a forest like you would get out of a, you know, Brothers Grimm fairy tale, but it is certainly a forest sector, and you know, bears can spawn anywhere. So it's a good idea to kind of keep your lines of sight open in all directions, so that if something bad is on the horizon, oh, I hate that sound. If something bad is on the horizon, you can see it and react appropriately while you have time. Otherwise, because bears make noise, but they don't make a lot of noise. Wolves do howl, but not all the time. So with wolves, you have a pretty good chance of getting some warning that they're in the neighborhood and that they're getting closer. But you know, with bears, you can just wind up sometimes being face to face with them with like pretty much zero chance for you to do anything about it, and that's not cool. So, you know, little prudence, and you're good. Now, I'm still just amazed at how big and spread out these ruins are, and extensive. I mean, this ruin right here that I'm working on is the biggest ruin I've ever worked on, and it is just one piece of this little complex. So this is some pretty cool stuff. I mean, if I'm gonna find something interesting in a ruin, I'm pretty sure that this ruin pretty much has to fit the bill. This is gonna be where we find it. That being said, the game engine really does a number when designing this stuff, and you know, if you're just looking on the surface, you don't want to do any digging or whatever, you are gonna find none of the good stuff. Of course, there's bedrock right there. Well, not bedrock, but see, look, you see, I'm carving it out, and there's more cobblestone underneath. Oh, I just heard a wolf. A distant wolf. Don't have to freak out too much, but freak out a little bit is appropriate. In real life, I love wolves. I mean, who doesn't? They're cool. They're majestic. They're smart. They're high fertility soil. No wonder it's so dark. Well, yes, please. I'll just take some more of this chocolate cake looking stuff with green frosting. High fertility soil. Now, let's talk about that. If you're not familiar with Vintage Story, there's a pig. It's either dead or sleeping, probably sleeping. They do that. We all do. Let's see if we can get ourselves some pig meat. Pig meat, not a pig me. Whoops. Whoops. Oh, now you run. Okay. Ooh, get stuck. You didn't get stuck. Skinned him practically. Okay. Huh? Okay, let's harvest. Okay, he's definitely dead. That's. Am I just not getting a good sight on him? Oh, how about reading the clue that they put in the middle of the screen? Control key, control harvest. I'm kind of full. Let's drop the cruddy stuff. Let's drop the cruddy stuff and. Okay. And then bones. Okay, I'm full up. Got a lot of good stuff. Let's see. Yes. So I will go ahead and use the fat to with the hide. And what this does is it gives me an oiled hide, which is now going to cure no matter where I put it, whether I put it on the ground or in my inventory or a container. It's going to cure that hide into a pelt, and the pelt's basically a fur, and that will be something that we can use later to make warm clothes. Now it's May, but it's never too early to prepare for winter. And I would also like to do leather, but like I said, I gotta have the copper to make the saw, so that I can make the planks, so that I can make the barrels, so that I can do the tanning and all that jazz for curing the hides and the leather. So this is good, and we can use up some of the stuff in my inventory. Anyway, so what I was talking about the agriculture is first of all, these fields are out here, and fields, the field, when you hoe a block of dirt, it becomes essentially a field, and the quality of that field, the richness of that field, will depend on the quality of the soil you started with, right? So I've got poor soil and medium or low fertility soil, medium fertility soil, and now high fertility soil. And these are important because I mean, the word fertility is the dead giveaway, right? If it's low fertility, stuff will grow. It won't grow fast, won't grow great. And medium fertility, it will grow a lot faster. It'll grow a lot better. Well, give me one guess what you think the high fertility soil will do, right? And a key element of that is that we've talked a little bit about these different crops having different nutrient requirements. Well, the quality of the soil has a great deal to do with the speed with which those nutrients are regenerated in the soil, right? Now, there is the caveat that once you set down a field, once you use the hoe on a block of soil and make it into a field, you can't move it, right? If you try to pick it up, there's no such thing as silt touch or anything like that in this game. If you try to pick up the field, it'll just fall apart. So, you know, if you're talking about low or medium fertility soil, well, no big deal. There's tons of that stuff, clearly. But if we're talking about the high fertility soil, yeah, you want to make sure that that thing is where you want it to be. And there's another soil type that you can't find. You have to make it yourself. You'll make it with compost. I think it's called like terra preta or something like that. And that stuff's the richest soil in the game. And you notice how like the soil gets darker and darker the richer it gets. This stuff's almost black. It looks like coffee grounds. So good stuff. Obviously, you notice I made some rammed earth, and I'm surrounding my pit kilns with the rammed earth so that one, it looks better, right? It looks a little more realistic, but more importantly, it should help prevent grass fires. So there, I might have to do the same thing with the charcoal kiln. Anyway, so we will at some point, hopefully soon, we will start swapping out our existing fields with this new high fertility stuff. If I had some flax, that's usually what I would put in it, right? To try to get as many harvests of flax as I could before winter gets here, but I don't have any flax. So the wind is whipping up. Okie dokie, so I'm mighty hungry. Like a house full of teenage boys, so let's... What I like to do is start cooking up this meat. So like from pigs, we get red meat. And from certain other animals, you also get the red meat. I think with like... I don't know if you get it with sheep. Pretty sure you get it with the cattle. You definitely get it with. Pretty sure you get it with rabbits, which kind of puzzles me because rabbits are gamey. But anyway, the red meat you can use exactly like I am now in recipes in a cooking pot. Now, other meat, say like bears, wolves, I think deer, maybe not deer, raccoons, foxes. That is bush meat, they call it, and it's gamey, or as they say in New England, gamey. And it's in the game you can't use that as part of a recipe. You can certainly cook it up, right? But you just throw it on a fire, it roasts, and then you got essentially practically beef jerky. So it doesn't last as long, and well, actually I think it might last a long time, a relatively long time, but it doesn't give you a whole lot of nutrition. But I mean, don't forget we had the food groups, and so it definitely gives you the protein food group. But in my world, if I get bush meat, I'll cook it, and if I get a chance to, or I need to eat it, I will. But I don't care if it goes bad because it makes great source material for rot. And rot, look at this, is important because that's how we make the compost for that terra preta stuff. So we just got some rye. I mean, you can't see me because I'm not showing my face in the camera, but I'm making my rye face. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Or should I say, that's right, it's pretty bad. I'm sorry, I'm going against the grain. I get it. Oh my gosh. Dad humor can be dangerous for your health, apparently. So, we'll continue clearing this out. And once I get a copper pickaxe, we can go ahead and trim out some of this limestone that's sticking up into my basement. Oh! The only thing worse than that sound is if you see somebody's limb go the wrong direction. One of my daughters studies karate, and so thank goodness I've never seen anybody get really hurt at her school. But we watch karate videos sometimes, and sometimes I've seen just guys doing some sparring, nothing going crazy, but just one lucky or unlucky hit, and you see like somebody's leg fold back on itself in the wrong direction. And there are people who actually enjoy watching that kind of stuff. I'm not one of them. In fact, it's the primary reason why I never went into medicine. That was my thing, right? When I was a kid, I wanted to be a scientist of some kind, and medicine was where I was headed. I was eager to be a doctor, but I don't handle the medical stuff well. Blood, especially my blood oozing out of my body, that will send me into a tailspin. And when it comes to somebody else's blood or pulling it out of them or doing harm to them, I'm just not that type of guy. I just can't do it, even if it's to save them, right? I'm sure there's a good chunk of medical school dedicated to working through that. Why is this? Oh yeah. So I think so. Okay, hold on. There's some basic rules of the road, but there's some exceptions that don't make sense. And I think I'm trying to remember. I think this is one of them. Plus, I think when I pulled the pot full of food out like that, I lost the food, which is an important safety tip. Don't do that. So if I put in the meat, okay, it says I'm getting red meat stew. If I put in the grain, I'm not getting anything. And it's not a matter of what goes in first. Nope, there's a porridge. So with boiled chicken in the woods. So I forgot. So mixing your meat with your grains doesn't work very well. You can't. Meaty porridge apparently doesn't happen. Meaty vegetable. Oh, I think that's my stuff. There it is. Okay, I didn't lose it. Good. Thank God. So mixing meat with veg will work. Mixing grains with veg with fruit will work, but you can't mix meat and grains. So I'm gonna make some really meaty stew, and that'll work. Getting dark out there, so we'll just pop a snooze. This time of year, of course, the mornings start very early. Now, depending on where you live, you might not be familiar with this, right? Because when I was a kid, lived in Southern California, and the days did grow longer and shorter, but the difference between the shortest day of the year and the longest day of the year wasn't much, right? Where I started to freak out was when I would go, after my parents' divorce. My dad lived in Utah, northern Utah, and that's quite a ways further north than where I lived. And that's when, and I'd spend my summers with him, and I was like amazed at how late the sun stayed up in the air in the evening, right? I mean, back in those days, my dad would take us to drive-in sometimes, and we go to a drive-in, and in Southern California, even in the summer, by 7 or 8 o'clock, it's dark enough that you can have a drive-in movie and see the screen. But in northern Utah, we went to the drive-in theater, and they start the movie at like 9:30, because if you start it much later, it's like run really, really late. But it's hard to see the screen. I remember we saw Star Wars at the movie theater in a drive-in like that, and I thank God I've already saw it a few times before that, because the first 10 to 15 minutes movie, which is important, couldn't hardly see, right? I'm just listening to the soundtrack, and it's not Dolby sound or anything. It's on that little metal box that's hanging from the driver's side window, right? So there are still a handful of drive-in theaters out there now, and a lot of them now no longer even supply the speakers, right? If you go to a modern drive-in, if you can find a modern drive-in, basically they'll tell you what station to tune to with your car radio, and basically they broadcast the sound that way. So you get a lot better sound, unless you're driving like your 1966 Buick and it still has the original radio. Then you might be in trouble. It's got one speaker, but yeah. It's just interesting. I'm a big fan of the idea of drive-in theaters. Not with my dad, but certainly with my family in general. Because with the drive-in theater experience, we the kids are in their PJs and we've got all of our snacks and stuff with us. Technically, I think that we were never supposed to, but that's what everyone did, right? I mean, we when we went to the drive-in, right, in the back of the car there, we had kids in pajamas, blankets and pillows everywhere, a cooler full of drinks, and a big old shopping bag full of popcorn, which my dad spent like an hour and a half before we went to the movies popping like a massive amount of popcorn. So, so now, I mean, I'm dating myself, right? Because this is like the early mid 70s. The drive-in theater usually had a double feature, and you'd go to the first movie, which was usually something that's fairly family friendly. Then there's an intermission where everyone gets in line forever at the bathroom, and then there's the second movie, which is usually less family friendly. But by then it doesn't matter because the kids are out like lights in the back seat. So it's kind of sad. I mean, it's not super important, but it is an experience I think my kids would have appreciated. I don't think there's any drive-in theater in the greater Seattle metropolitan area. I'd have to look. I'll have to look. The fox changed his mind. It's after the rabbit. But, that's a good sign. That is a good sign, because when you see rabbits run around like that, it usually means that something's chasing them, and that might be a bad sign. But then you see a fox that's behind it, and you're like, okay, the fox isn't going to bother me. In fact, he's scared of me. And it's a good sign, because if there's foxes in the neighborhood and they're not running from something, I'm okay. Now, when you see a fox running, it's probably running from something that I would want to run from. Or at least, there's a bunch of foxes. I see 1, 2, I see 2, 3. There's one even further away. Okay. So we're in Fox Central. I've been outfoxed. So if you notice, I just saw one right there. I still see it. As I'm bashing some of these like blocks, it says insulating block face, and that's what it calls blocks that have either been generated partially or have been chiseled by a player. But if you notice, you see, I'm bashing these with my bare hands, and then when I get them, not the full blocks. Hold on. So when I bash one of these partial blocks, aged limestone ashlar blocks. Okay, watch this one. Watch what happens when I finish it. Little red dots, right? Now, what does that mean? I'm pretty sure we're not saying that that partial block is full of blood. It's a juicy, appendage or whatever. I'm thinking it's because I'm bashing it with my bare hands. That's my blood, though I'm not taking any damage. But I think I just heard a wolf again. Anyway, I find it interesting. That's probably not an accidental feature. But if it's not accidental, then I'm trying to figure out what the exact intention is. What are they trying to convey here? Because some guy bashing on a block with his bare hands, yeah, there'd be some blood involved. And that behavior kind of flies in the face of evolution, because guys who run around bashing rocks with their bare hands probably won't stay in the gene pool for long. So having a clear field of vision, it's important to if you want to avoid potential bad guys. You have to be careful, though. A clear field of vision doesn't always work, right? So just like in Minecraft, right? well, you've seen me. If you know, in previous episodes, I was running out onto that big grassy plain, and there's small rises, right? So it's possible that you can go over a rise that's 1 or 2 blocks high, and then come down the other side and find a wolf. Bears have a tendency to stick up out of those. But then there's also cave systems and stuff that are big enough to hide whatever I'm gonna find there. So you know, just running across the landscape willy-nilly can still kind of lead to an ambush situation, ambushing you. So this game is very much about keeping you on your toes. This is not a game where you can, like, you know, walk away from the keyboard and make yourself a sandwich or use a bathroom, because that's how you get dead. Well, it's one way you can get dead. Be killed. Have a life-ectomy. Or soul-ectomy. Now, I don't. It's been a few episodes since I talked about my first vintage story experiences. But when I first started playing the game and I found the ruins, obviously they're ruins, right? So you're like, oh, there's got to be something good in ruins, because that's just how things work, right? No matter what game you're playing or what story you're reading or movie you're watching, if there's ruins, there's something there. That's just obvious. So when you first play this game and you find the ruins, you're like, okay, there is something in here that's worthwhile. But even if there isn't, looking for the worthwhile stuff, tearing these blocks up gives me a whole lot of really useful building material, particularly when I'm not able to go mining, because, like, what is that? Age? So there's probably something interesting underneath that. But if you're mining, right? Well, guess what? When mining, just normal mining, nothing, you don't even have to go out of your way. Just trying to, you know, get to ore veins and digging out ore veins, you will come up with a ton of material that you can use to build with, and at that point you can really go to town. In fact, you'll probably build everything you ever wanted to build, and then still have leftovers, and, you know, trying to figure out what to do with it. Which I'm lucky. I'm in a world, or a biome that has limestone, and I'm sure you could have too much limestone. Not quite sure how, but the thing is, with the limestone, right? Yeah, I can build structures out of it and stuff, but it's limestone, and so you could take the limestone and I forget exactly what I have to do with it first, but I think I bake it and then grind it, or grind it then bake it, or something like that. But anyhow, we can turn it into lime that with a kern, which is a grinding device. And then with the lime, we can make things like mortar for, like, you know, bricks and mortar, or we can turn it into quick lime for a number of different things, including lime water, which is one of the reasons why we would need barrels for making leather, because we got to fill the barrel with the lime water, throw in the raw hides. It starts breaking them down, and then the next step would be you scrape the hair off the hides, and then you put those hides into big barrels full of tannin. There's weak tannin and strong tannin, so you put it in a barrel full of weak tannin, and that does its thing, and then you pull the hide out and put it in a barrel full of strong tannin, and that pretty much finishes the leather. And for tannin, you need logs. You need oak logs specifically. So this is the thing, right? You start to get into these situations where, like the red clay and the blue clay, right? You can make stuff with red clay, you can make stuff with blue clay. And except for later in the game where you can do fancy stuff with the firing mechanism, they're pretty much the same thing. Though at the later game, like I said, you can make stuff in different colors. But then there's fire clay, and you're like, okay, but you can use all the things you can do with red clay and blue clay. You can do with fire clay, but don't do that, because fire clay has some uses that nothing else works, right? Like making a bloomery. Ooh, we're ready to get some beets. Yes, please. And one more, maybe, someplace? No? Okay, there's a lot of bugs out today. And that's the truth. Had to be done. That one of the elements of dad humor is, it's like the line in Top Gun. I had the shot, so I took it. You can't hold back. Look at that, 13 beets. That's like more food than everything else I already had in here. I like sorting my food so that it's in age order, or how long it'll last. So the stuff that'll go bad first is in the upper left, and stuff that'll go bad later, way later, lower right. So we got our rye seeds. And now they've arrived. I got these beet seeds. Let's look at this soil. The soil's fine. What? You know what? There's 4. I have 4 beet seeds. So I think it's time to inaugurate some of that high fertility soil. If I remember where I put it. So we take 4 of these, and I have a hoe hidden in here, right? Make sure I get the hoe thing. I don't know. It's the caffeine. I had to caffeinate, sorry. So, watch. We won't get anything back from this. It's just gone. Gone. Just like our sense of security in this world. Okay, so that's gone. Now we throw down our high fertility soil. Look at that. It's like throwing down devil's food cake. Big old block of brownie or something. Now, look at that. Now that it's tilled, it looks like a charbroiled burger, right? I'm going to have it my way. And then look at those numbers, right? 65%. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely amazing stuff. And then back to the walls. Now, I call it a tower, but really what I'm thinking is more of like what I've heard called a armored house, right? A fortified house, which is, it's not quite a castle, but not quite your average house, right? It has elements of both. And what I'm thinking about now is I'm going to put dirt in the spots where I'll put windows or doors. And the reason I could just leave them open, but once we move in, that's problematic because do you want to live in a house where the doors and windows are just open to outside? Probably not bad during the summer, but probably not very, I was going to say cool, but it's very cool in the winter. So, so I will block them with dirt. Now, if we get that saw, if we get copper and I can make a copper saw like I keep talking about, then we can make doors and to block these spaces. And for windows, you can actually make trap doors, right? Put a trapdoor in the window. That works too. Though at that point I would like to get leaded glass, because they make better windows. You can't open them, but they look a lot better, and they let light in without opening the door to the whole neighborhood, or opening the window to the whole neighborhood. Anyhow, so that's where we're headed with that. That's why I placed dirt in between those blocks, because planning for it now. Plan ahead. Nothing really clever about that approach. It's tried and true. Been doing it for a bazillion years. And it works in pretty much any game you can think of. Oh, excuse me. I guess maybe the caffeine isn't working as well. There is a definite method to my madness. I have to keep reminding you that. Maybe I have to keep reminding me of that. But as we move forward, you'll see it. But it's very much the long game. Oh, speaking of the long game, we're almost out of time. But let me tell you a story. True story. My dad was my natural dad. He was a bit of a redneck and a massive practical joker. And when I said long game, it reminded me of one of his. He used to play mind games with us and get us to say stupid things all the time. But I think the one that he was most proud of one time is, I think I was like 8 or 9, something like that. And one day I'm sitting there playing with toys on the floor, and he walks by and he just asked me straight up, "Are you a smart feller or a fart smeller?" And there's one obvious answer. So it's like, I'm a smart feller. I'm a smart feller. And he said, okay. And he walked off. And then, like, for the next 2 weeks, every once in a while, he just walked by and he just asked me, "Are you a smart feller or a fart smeller?" And I would always say, I'm a smart feller. And then he kind of changed it up, and he would just ask me one. He says, "Are you a fart smeller?" And it's like, "No, I'm a smart feller." And that went on for like another 2 weeks. And then one day, while I'm in, he's in the work truck with my sister and my grandfather and him. We're all in the work truck, and we're driving someplace, and he switches it on me, and he goes, "Are you a smart feller?" And of course, he's totally trained me to say the opposite, and I go loud and clear so everyone can hear, "No, I'm a fart smeller." We almost crashed, right? He was laughing so hard, my grandfather was laughing so hard, my sister was laughing so hard, and meanwhile my face was red enough and hot enough you probably could have boiled water off of it. But man, was I mad. Now it is funny. It's funny as all get out. But man, anyhow, that's a story worth telling. But that's the type of guy my dad was. Anyhow, so you can see where I put aside a spot for a door. You can see where there will be windows. I don't know if I'll have all of those as windows. Maybe not all of them. But it also helps me kind of measure out space. So that's good. It's good. I'm kind of surprised at how much of the island we were able to expand today. That's also good. Because, there's a lot of stuff that we need land for, right? We want some space for livestock pens. We need some space for growing honeybees. I would like to grow some trees in my neighborhood. Really, in my neighborhood. So we need some space. Now, frankly, I'm pretty proud of choosing a little island and a big lake as a home for my base, because I think it has really kept the bad guys off of my back and front and sides. But by the same token, too, it was a really small island. So, unless I wanted to keep living in the same type of hut I have now, which can be done, just makes life a whole lot more miserable and difficult. I need more space, and more space means more island, and that's what I'm doing here. So it was productive. It was productive. It still doesn't look like much, but it does look a little bit better than it did. Oh, and I just realized that now if I look closely, now that I know where those ruins are, I can see them from here, but... Oh, more beets. That took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting you guys until tomorrow. Yeah, we'll go ahead and plant these. So, and this game has built-in shaders. This game has built-in beauty. It's hard to believe that I'm looking at the vanilla game right here. So with that beautiful vista in mind, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you come back for future episodes. I hope you enjoy seeing my gradual progress, and I'm still amazed I haven't died yet. Just give it time. But in the meanwhile, I hope this finds you and yours in good health, good spirits, and perhaps a touch of good fortune. So take care. Cheers.